we're starting to go with a joke this week to get us loose, get us moving. All right.
Okay.
Are you ready for my joke?
No.
What do you call a British man with 2 testicles?
A normal guy.
Diabolical. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I'm your host, Charles. Along with me, as always, my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, gunner, navigator, orator, and podcasting associate, Jacob Gloth. How you doing today, Jacob?
I'm okay, Charlie. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Did you like my joke? Were you a fan?
You told me I did not like your cold open. I thought you were gonna say something disgusting, but that's not what I expected. That was.
No, a really terrible
rather
joke.
Lame, to be honest. Wow. Okay. Well, we have a podcast. Like this is episode 243.
We do have a podcast.
We have
243.
More to do than Charlie's shitty joke. We have exciting things to do. We have a pitch, an exciting show, Charlie, which is called The Man on the Yellow Moon.
Man on the Yellow Moon. That's my show that I'm writing. I wrote the show idea. Jake gave me the title.
Yeah.
Now, I want to know what you thought that the show was going to be about, right? With the title like that.
Space show, man on a moon. He's the only person left in civilization, and he's wandering the moon. That was my idea.
He's by himself on this yellow moon.
Yeah.
All right.
Moon's yellow. All civilization's gone. He's stranded there alone. And it's his journey either getting off or experiencing, sadness.
I like that idea. That is not where I went. I went for a very Earth-based show, right? It's contemporary. It's kind of like a journey across America where our main character meets a whole bunch of kooky characters, weirdos and freaks and stuff like that, and discovers something about himself, right? So I'm just going to tell you the pilot, right? The opening episode and what happens, and then I'm going to break it down because some things are not exactly clear.
Okay. Right? Is this a thriller, or should I expect mystery here? Should I be thinking?
It's not a mystery as much as if you're watching it, right? You know what's happening, but the characters inside of the show don't get it. Right? Like, the main character is very naive and kind of stupid, and so he doesn't really fully understand the predicaments he finds himself in, and because this is an audio medium and I'm just describing it to you, it might not be as clear as as it would be if there was a camera.
Would you say this
somewhere.
Is a show that I have to sit down on a couch and watch with my glasses on, or is this a show I could fold laundry while watching?
I think that this is a show that you would start folding laundry, right? But about halfway through the first episode, you would be interested enough, or maybe after the first episode, but you would be interested enough that you sit down and put your glasses on. That's what I think that this show is.
Jeez, if I'm still folding laundry by the end of the first episode, that's kind of sad. I must be really slow at folding laundry, but
you got lots of laundry. You're being so captured by the show.
Doing the whole building's laundry.
You're folding laundry.
Doing everybody in the apartment building's laundry.
You're doing it for him.
Just a super nice person. Doing everybody's laundry.
He's a nice, sweet boy. And he's got a big building. I've been to his building. There's lots of people there.
It could take forever. It would probably take me more than a week.
Oh, almost assuredly. But you would have a fantastic TV show to watch while doing a very reasonable TV show to watch. Haha. Mitchell wakes up on his 18th birthday. Cecilia by Simon & Garfunkel is playing. Cecilia is going to be kind of the song that follows this character through his journey, right? Okay. And so it will be how we open the show and how we end the show.
Spoilers.
And he celebrates with his family. Mitchell's celebrating his 18th birthday with his family. His father, who is a big, burly, very masculine dude, right? Mitchell's kind of, he's not like a wimp, but he's skinny. He likes bow ties and he has glasses and stuff, right? And he has his mother, who is sweet and loving, and he has like 6 sisters, right? Mitchell is the only boy in the family, besides his dad.
Okay.
And he's celebrating his birthday with his family, and he's having a great time, right? They brought him breakfast in bed. They're singing his favorite songs, right? We're watching movies. We're playing games, right? He's having a great time with his family, right? And after cake and singing the birthday song and his favorite meal, right? He sits down with his dad, right? And he cracks open a beer, right? His dad cracks open a beer for him. And he's like, you're a man now, son, right? You can have a beer, right? And I want you, when you're watching the thing, right, you won't see the outside, right? It looks like a very normal suburban home. The only strange thing is there's not really any windows, you know?
Okay.
And he's sitting and he's drinking a beer with his dad, and he's not really liking it, but he's loving spending this quality time with his dad, because his dad cares, like, pays more attention to his daughters than he does to his son, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Mitchell looks up, and he looks at this daytime mural that has been painted on the ceiling, right? He looks at this daytime mural, and he points to the sun. And he asks his dad again about the man on the yellow moon, right? And his dad explains for the 100th time, right, that the man on the yellow moon, he lives out there in the world, right? And he lives on the yellow moon, and he grants wishes, right? And when Mitchell goes out into the world, right, when he leaves his family and becomes a man, right, the man on the yellow moon will be there at the end of his journey, you know?
Ah, like a leprechaun at the end of the rainbow. Or that's the gold pot. I don't remember how that works.
Who knows? You have to catch a leprechaun and they'll lead you to the gold, I think.
Yeah.
Most of my leprechaun knowledge comes from the movies, the Leprechaun movies with Warwick Davis. Great films. But he finishes his beer with his dad, right? And he gives his mother a big hug, right? And he gives his sisters big hugs, and he tells them he loves them, and there's this tearful goodbye as Mitchell picks up his bag and he puts it on, right? And he's wearing his little red bow tie, and he's got a nice clean white shirt on and dress shoes. He's kind of dressed like a Mormon, you know? And he's got his backpack on, and he says goodbye to his family, right? And he shakes his dad's hand, right? And then he steps out into the hallway outside the front door. The front door closes behind him. It locks with this huge pneumatic clunking lock, right? Oh. And he climbs up a ladder. And he climbs, and he climbs, and he climbs. And he eventually breaches onto the surface world. And he gets up there, and he's standing in the middle of a field. And he sees a gigantic green sign that says Interstate 227, Utah. The closest town is 27 miles that way.
Okay.
And Mitchell, confused, annoyed, but hopeful and excited about his new life, right? He just starts to walk, right? And we see Mitchell just kind of contemplating, looking around, looking up at the sun, right? At the blue sky and the bright yellow sun, and he's kind of, his eyes hurt a little bit, like he's so baffled by this sun, right? And he's walking, and he's pretty sure that the sun, it's the yellow moon doesn't always do that, right? Surely not. The yellow moon isn't always this bright. This is just it has to be a special occasion or something like that. The man on the yellow moon must be throwing a party, because he wouldn't make it this bright normally.
Yeah.
And eventually, after many, many miles of walking, Mitchell gets to the closest town, right? And he's exhausted. He has walked through the soles of his loafers, you know? He is now, like, he is haggard, he is sweaty, his clothes are, like, dirty, you know? His bag is, like, kind of, like, got dust all over it. Maybe there's a hole in the bottom of it because he, you know, dropped it or something like that. And he decides to go into the first building that he sees, right? Dr. Chris's Diamonds, Jewels, and Emeralds. It is Dr. Chris is an emerald dealer, right? He is, I would say, imagine the actor from The Wire, Omar, I forget his name, he's passed away, he's a very, very good actor. Imagine him He's charming, he's handsome, right? But he's got kind of an edge to him, right? He's got a little bit of a darkness to him, and he's got an eye patch and a gold tooth, right? And Dr. Chris, as soon as Mitchell gets in, he's amazed by this air conditioning. He's like, oh my God, I haven't felt this comfortable in forever, right? Like, this is so nice to be this cool, right? And he starts asking Dr. Chris all of these fucking insane questions, right? And I'm like, I'm not talking about like kind of weird questions. I mean, like, so is there a little gnome in the air conditioning that chips away the ice and that's what keeps the air cold? Like, insane questions. And Chris at first thinks he's high, right? Dr. Chris is kind of like baffled by this kid who looks like so clean cut, but also the way he's talking, he must be high, right? And after a few minutes of conversation, Chris realizes that this guy isn't high, he's a moron, right? And morons make the greatest patsies. And so he hires he hires Mitchell on the spot. And he says, I'll give you a job, right? Job is in quotation marks. If you ever meet a cop, you say your name is Dr. Chris of Dr. Chris's Emeralds, Diamonds, and Jewels, right? And you're gonna carry this bag of baking soda in your backpack, right? That's all you have to do. You don't have to do anything else. There's nothing else, right? And I'll give you $5 and a place to sleep on the night. Tomorrow, I'll have a buddy rolling into town and he'll be able to take you to meet my friend in El Paso, right? And Mitchell is kind of a little baffled, right? He didn't expect to get a job, but hey, this is what being a man is, right? You have to work, you have to earn money, right? Okay, $5, hell yeah, right? And so that's how the first episode ends, is with Mitchell sitting laying down on this cot, right? In the middle of Dr. Chris's Diamonds, Emeralds, and Jewels. And he's staring up at a very dim, yellowy light bulb that just will not turn off, you know? Mm-hmm. Staring up from the cot, and he falls asleep, right? That's the end of the first episode. Do you have any questions?
So you said that there would be explanations to the things. Is this where we get the breakdown?
There is explanations.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll break it down for you. So, how the show is going to work is Mitchell is the son of a cult leader, right?
Okay.
His dad leads a cult. It's an underground, gross, weird sex cult, right?
Oh boy.
And his father is kicking Mitchell out because he is now officially an 18-year-old man, and therefore threatens his supremacy as the patriarch of the cult, right? And so he has to kick him out. But he's making it as if it's a journey into manhood or whatever.
Yeah.
And so Mitchell is going to go on this weird, surreal, kind of fucked up journey across America to get from Utah to LA. Because as we know, LA is the greatest city in America, and it's where all people want to go. Yeah.
Sure.
And so Mitchell is very naive and really doesn't understand how the world works. And so he's going to be just meeting all sorts of strange and interesting characters along the way who will help him learn more about himself, right? I've got some of these characters written down. So I'll go over these characters and how they're going to help him along his journey. And then we'll get to the ending. So we've already talked about Dr. Chris, right? Mm-hmm. A diamond dealer who sees Mitchell as a convenient patsy for his criminal dealings, right? So the friend of Dr. Chris's, who is going to drive Mitchell down to El Paso, is Bonzonzo, the ringleader of a group of biker clowns who do business with Dr. Chris, right? And so it's like a biker gang, but they all dress up like clowns, right? And that's their thing. And Bonzonzo specifically takes a liking to Mitchell because he sees Mitchell as being kind of childlike in a lot of ways. He's not very intelligent. He's not got a lot of experience. And so when he understands that Chris is kind of setting up Mitchell to be a patsy for him, right? He's going to tell the cops that this gang of clowns is transporting Dr. Chris with a ton of drugs, right? So that the real Dr. Chris can make it down to El Paso without being discovered at all, right?
Oh, okay.
Once Bonzonzo figures that out, right, he kind of loses it. Because not only is Dr. Chris setting him up to go to prison, right, he is fucking over this kid who is an idiot, right? He's taking advantage of this child, basically. Yeah. And so Bonzonzo and the rest of his biker gangs, right, they drive Chris a chunk of his way. I wouldn't say they drive him all the way. They drive him to Nevada. They get him to Vegas, right? And they take the bag of baking soda off of him, and they say, you're all right, Mitchell, right? You're cool. We like you. You have a good day, And they drive back to Utah because they're gonna have a word with Dr. Chris when he gets back from El Paso. You best believe that, my friend. You best believe that. Our next character is a Miss Steph. That is how she is referred to, and she is a founding member of the cult, right? So she founded it with Mitchell's dad and his mom, right? So they were like in a throuple situation, and Miss Steph escaped. It's kind of like difficult to say, right? She is now working in Las Vegas as a yogi, right? So she's a yoga instructor and a Whole Foods cashier because nobody has enough money to being a yogi to pay to live in anywhere, I would imagine. And so she, he'll bump into her, right? Just apropos at the Whole Foods. And he recognizes her from a portrait, right? That he's seen on the wall of his house, right? Where it was his dad, his mom, and this woman, Miss Steph. And so Miss Steph, he introduces himself to Miss Steph, and she is terrified and baffled and runs away, right? And so Mitchell chases her down, and he's trying to catch up to her, and she evades it and gets away. And Mitchell's kind of I'm fucked. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm aimless. The one person who maybe had some idea of what I should be doing, right? Trying to meet the man on the yellow moon, is gone. I don't know what to do, right? And so he kind of goes through Las Vegas. He didn't have any money, right? People are trying to get him to do stuff, prostitutes are soliciting from him or trying to solicit him, and people are trying to get him to gamble or drink, but he just is tired, right? He's tired, and he goes and he sits on a park bench, right? And then across the park, he sees Miss Steph leading her yoga class, right? And he's like, this is fate. This is the man in the yellow moon, right? Helping me, right?
Oh, okay.
And so he goes, afterwards, she's calmed down, and he introduces himself again, and she is really skittish. He just says, please, don't run. I don't want any, I just want to talk, right? I just want to know a little bit about myself, And so she breaks down that in the late 80s, she got into this pretty serious relationship with his mom and dad, right? And his dad convinced them that it was a good idea to go live in a cult in the middle of buttfuck nowhere in a bunker, right? And after a few years and a few kids, right, she decided it probably wasn't a great idea. And she left, right? Or escaped. It's kind of left up to interpretation. But she's got a bus ticket to LA, right? And if the man in the yellow moon is anywhere, it's in LA, right? And she knows, obviously, intellectually, that this isn't this is a fool's errand, but she just doesn't have the heart to break this kid's, soul. She really just can't do it. And so she's like, you know what? That's someone else's job. That's someone else's responsibility, right? And then he gets on a bus and is driving from Las Vegas to LA, right? And he falls asleep on the bus. And in his dream, he sees the man on the yellow moon, right? And have you ever seen Dragon Ball Z?
No, I have not.
No? All right. Well, in Dragon Ball Z, there is a character who has like a very small house that's on like a floating moon situation, right?
That's cool.
And so that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. Like this in the dream that he's having, obviously. It's this moon that's maybe 60 feet by 60 feet, you know, like it's not very big at all, right? And you see this guy and he's sitting on a lawn chair, right? One of those fold out lawn chairs, and he's got the like the 3-panel mirror things that people use to suntan like their chins and stuff, right? He's got sunglasses on, he's got shorts on, no shoes, tank top, and that little bit of sunscreen over his nose, right? And he looks up at Mitchell, and Mitchell starts asking him questions about what he's doing, what he's meant to be doing, right? And the man on the yellow moon just looks at him, lowers his sunglasses a little bit, gives him a wink, and then Mitchell wakes up. They've arrived in LA. He's you know, kind of a little bit like, whoa,
yeah.
You know, he doesn't know what he's doing. He gets off the bus, right? He goes through his pockets. He finds out that Miss Steph also gave him like $50, you know? She just slipped it in his pocket because she's nice like that. And so he is walking around LA and he's amazed, right? He's never seen the sights and the sounds and the smells and the people, right? He's baffled and amazed by it all, right?
He's baffled
and he's
at how
walking around.
You can have such a big city but have such a terrible public transport system. Doesn't make any sense to him.
It's so much drugs, so many homeless people, right? But also, Mitchell is homeless, right? So he's kind of happy, right? He's like, these are my people. I'm cool with these guys, you know? And he goes into the LA Zoo. Have you ever been to the LA Zoo?
I have, yeah.
Is it good?
It's okay. It was closed when I went.
All right,
I passed it. I didn't actually go in.
Okay, well, so you haven't been to the LA Zoo. You walked
haven't.
by the LA Zoo.
I've never seen it open, to be honest. Every time I've gone to near it, it's been closed.
All right, well, I'm assuming that there are hippos there, right? Because the next character that Mitchell runs into on his journey, the last character, really, that Mitchell runs into on his journey is Felicia, right? And she is a hippo tamer at the LA Zoo, right? And so he buys a ticket, and he's going in, and he's never seen anything like these animals, right? The only animals he knows about are cows, chickens, pigs, dogs, and cats, right? Because that's all that they talked about in the bunker, you know? And so he is amazed and he's baffled. He's like a little kid. I'm saying baffled a lot in this pitch, but it is a baffling pitch. But he's really invested and interested in these animals, right? And so he's watching, and he watches for hours and hours like a little kid. And eventually Felicia sees that that he has been really interested, and so she goes and starts talking to him.
Continually watching these hippos and not leaving. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
You definitely notice
just
this weird, creepy dude
fascinated,
not leaving.
Yeah, and he's got a bow tie that's kind of like askew, and his shirt's too small, right? Like, and all this stuff, you know. But you're right. Maybe at first she kind of goes up to him a little bit, like, "Hey, buddy, you need to clear off," right? But after talking to him for a few minutes, because the thing about Mitchell is, you talk to him for a few minutes, you realize just how, like, harmless he is. Like, he's not scary, he's not intense, he's just kind of a dimwit, you know?
Yeah.
And so she starts talking to him, and she's like, "You know what? Come with me, right? Like, I'll buy you a cup of coffee at the what do they have at zoos? Cafeteria at the zoo, right?" And she buys him a cup of coffee and the sandwich and something. He devours the sandwich because he hasn't eaten anything since Bonzonzo bought him a hot dog on the road, right? And he just starts to kind of talk about his life, right? Just casually, not really thinking about it very much, and talking about his family and stuff. And she is horrified by everything he's saying, because she is the only normal, sane human being in this TV show. And so after a bit of convincing, she finally is able to get him to tell his story to the police, right? And he goes out, right? He calls up, he tells the cops, right? And he's in the police station all night, right? All night talking to the cops about what is going on and where exactly he's from and exactly how many people are down, like all this stuff, right? And he leaves the police station, right? And he walks up a hill and he looks out over the water, right? And he sees the sun rising for the first time in his life. And he's silent. And he realizes that he has met the man on the yellow moon. Really. Because haven't we all really met the man on the yellow moon at one point or another, right? End of the show, right? And we'll have a post-credit scene where we watch the police raid the bunker, and like the dad is like throwing hands, and the mom is like kicking and screaming, and all the sisters have like blankets over them and they're crying and stuff like that, right? And we see that, and we zoom out and we pull out and we see Mitchell, right, in his trailer, right, on the top of a hill, right, overlooking the water. And then he climbs up a ladder, right? He unfolds his lawn chair. He takes out his little 3-panel sunning device. He puts a bit of sunscreen on his nose, right? He sits back, and he relaxes, and he watches the sun.
Hell yeah.
The man on the yellow moon.
I like that.
That's the show.
It's good.
Yeah.
I was very confused at the first episode, and I think you should. I just had an idea what you were talking there. I think you should try to prolong the confusion as long as possible, for the first episode at least. Like, I think the first episode should end when he gets out, maybe, and he sees like the first.
I was thinking that maybe the first episode should end with him leaving the bunker. You know. I didn't want to. If we're doing the actual TV show, yeah, we'll probably do that. But for the podcast, I wanted to kind of get things moving, you know? I had a lot of fun writing the show because the only thing that really came to mind when you said the man on the yellow moon, I was like, what's a yellow moon, right? And I was like, well, if you're lying to people, you could say the sun is a yellow moon, right?
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the snowball rolling down the hill of this show. I was like, well, why would you lie to people? Why would you know?
No, I really like the cult angle. I think that's fun.
Yeah, I think it's fun. I think it's really fun that Mitchell doesn't really understand that he's in a cult, or like that there's anything wrong with his life, you know? Like, he doesn't get that he's downtrodden. He is just like, well, this is how it is. This is how it's always been. I've never known any other way of being, you know? Oh, I did have an idea for why the clowns like him. Maybe he, like, the only movies they had were, like, Three Stooges and the Marx Brothers and stuff, like, really old classic comedy. And so he's, like, constantly referencing that, and that makes Bonzonzo like him a lot, because he's like, this kid's funny. He's, you know, he's got a good head on his shoulders, right?
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
He gets the references. He understands, maybe they're like, maybe they have some sort of gestures or, like, things that are based on those movies. And he like, understands them, and so they're, like, they can respect him more.
Yeah. Exactly. But you know what I mean when I said that there's a lot of Sunday Driver in this show, right? Like,
it's sort of,
it's not,
what's the word? It's like magical realism, where it's like
reality.
Yeah,
magical
like
realism. You're right.
It's like a little too weird to be real.
But not weird enough that it's totally out of the realm of possibility. Because if you told me, like, there is in fucking Las Vegas, there is a biker gang that all dresses like clowns, that really wouldn't surprise me that much, right?
Probably is. Somewhere, at least. Maybe not
it
Las
probably
Vegas,
is. Somewhere. So Exactly, magical realism, where things are just a little bit more realized than they would be IRL, but people still act like people to a degree, you know? But yeah, that's the Man in the Yellow Moon. That was my show. That was what I thought of.
I enjoyed it very much, Charlie. I thought it was fun. It's not what I expected when I gave you the title. I really thought it would be space, because, you know, it's called The Man on the Yellow Moon. But I like this idea better than the space idea. It's more fun. I like when we take these, we don't take the titles literally, or we expand on them in different ways. It's fun.
Yeah, I think that's when we're doing our best work, personally, is when we just take things like Ego Lives, right? That is not at all what I was thinking when I gave Ego Lives, right? But you ran with it in a cool direction. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I've been your host, Charles Long. With me has always been my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, gunner, navigator, orator, and podcasting associate, Jacob Gloth. If you like what you heard here and you want to hear more, please give us a like, a follow, subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog, tell your cat. And remember, we will be here next week, a brand new televisual series titled... You gotta pick 1 through 3.
Why do you always do the drum roll? I'm not gonna put it in anymore. I refuse. Can't be doing this every week.
That's fair.
What do I have to pick on? What numbers?
1 through 3.
1 through 3, I pick 2.
2. The ugliest reason in the world.
The ugliest raisin in the world. Okay, that's my next title.
Reason, not raisin.
I said reason.
Okay, just checking.
Okay.
Just making sure.
Got it. The ugliest raisin in the world.
Shit. All right, well, thank you, everyone. And I'm excited for what you do with that show next week.
It's going to be about an ugly raisin who gets bullied in school. It's going to be great.
Yeah, good. That's what I want the show to be about.
Yeah.